Hello and welcome to the WellCare Podcast by Citius Retreats. My name's George Bownes and I'm a sports and exercise medicine consultant and founder of Citius Retreats.
And I'm Nicola Graham, a strategy advisor in human performance.
So before we get into today's show, here's a few words from our kind sponsor, IBSA. Osteoarthritis is the leading cause of pain and disability in the UK. As our bodies age, there is a loss of naturally occurring hyaluronic acid within our joints, which can lead to reduced shock absorption and lubrication. This can contribute to the development of osteoarthritis, resulting in joint pain, stiffness, and difficulty carrying out daily activities, such as going to work and exercising. Synovial HL is a joint injection with the highest concentration of hyaluronic acid available in the UK, effectively restoring hyaluronic acid in the joint. It is scientifically proven to reduce pain and increase joint function, preserving your joint into the future. Synovial HL is injected in a simple procedure which offers an alternative to medication and surgery. If you'd like to find out more, please visit synovial.co.uk for full product information and a list of clinics offering Synovial HL injections. Synovial. Move freely, live fully. Disclaimer. The procedure must be carried out by an appropriately trained healthcare professional.
Welcome to the WellCare Podcast. In this episode, we are joined by Katie Marshall, who has nearly 2 decades of experience in PR, profile management, and brand consultancy. Katie is the founder of Luxley Communications, a leading agency that specialises in fitness, wellness, and luxury lifestyle. Katie is driven by a vision to amplify the voices and positive impact of inspiring individuals, forward-thinking startups, and game-changing businesses that align with her ethos. Katie has worked with a wide range of clients, from pro athletes through to luxury lifestyle brands, and we are super pleased to have Katie join us today to discuss the wellness industry. And so, Katie, what does wellness mean to you?
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here. Do you know what? It's such a good question, that, because wellness has got so many components within it. But for me, I think it really drills down to 2 key things. And I think it's balance and intention. And what I mean by that, because there is no perfect balance in life, is there? And, you know, you can kill yourself trying to find it. But really, it's about trying to find a balance that works for you and allows you to thrive in the areas of your life which bring most meaning to you. And I think it's, you know, allowing yourself the time and the space to really be present and to also take time for yourself. I think, you know, particularly in my world where the communications world is super fast paced, you can get really caught up in the hustle, but finding moments to sort of step back and like recharge and, you know, a bit of self-care and reflection are really, really important.
I think that kind of comes up with quite a few guests that we've had around that personalization. Like, if you know yourself, it makes it easier to know what makes you thrive and what. And I think where you've touched on there, like that fast-paced part of the world, like how did you get into PR? How did that journey start for you?
It was as normal. It was a bit of a surprise. I started in fashion. I've always been a real people person. And, you know, even at uni, I was the one organising the parties and, you know, doing events and stuff like that.
I think all 3 of us were at that stage. Can I just interrupt that? Well, we're on this whole thing in the first place. We're trying to help everyone. Go on.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I'm also a massive people pleaser, which I've been working on. So I started in fashion and I really quickly realised it wasn't for me. And then I applied to an agency and I didn't really know what I was applying to because it wasn't really clear cut. But long and short of it, I ended up working for like a spin doctor. And, you know, we were representing some really, really high profile footballers and mainly athletes who were employing this company to keep their secrets out of the press. And it was a real baptism of fire. They call it crisis management, but it was definitely spin doctoring. And it was really interesting. And I spent 10 months there and I learned a lot. But I also sort of learned that this wasn't a world I wanted to be in. And then one of our clients got coverage in a magazine, and that magazine was owned by a luxury lifestyle group. And so I applied to that group, and they had like a really arrogant recruitment thing on their website. And it was like, if you think you're better than everyone else, come in. And I'm not like that. That's not my mindset. And it was like, apply, and I applied, and I got the job. So it sort of happened by mistake. But I think I'm also a big believer in the universe, like directing you and like guiding you to the right place. And that every step you take is like the destination, the next step in your destination. So I don't see myself ever not doing Luxley, but I'm a believer that this is part of my journey and it's going to lead me somewhere.
So when did it that you branched out on your own at that point? Because that sounds like you were with an agency.
Yeah. So when I joined the other company, I then set up our own in-house comms company. And I was there for the best part of 10 years, and it was an amazing experience. But you learn a lot along the way. And I also had 2 children. And obviously, as a woman, not obviously, for a lot of women, when you have children, life changes, not only becoming a mother, but how you want to work. And I was lucky because I'd had an amazing time there, but I'd also seen both sides of business. And unfortunately, the environment could be a bit toxic at times, and it took its toll on me. And then when I was on maternity leave with my second, one of my clients called me for coffee, and he basically said, "Set up your own agency, I'll be your first client." And I said, "Well, we have to do this properly." And so we did it properly, because I'm not one for, biting the hand that feeds you. Fine, I brought that client into the agency, but also that client was part of the agency. So we did it all properly. And so that was in 2010, and I had a 6-month-old baby and a 3-year-old. But if anything's going to inspire you to take the leap, and actually it was that client. He's still a friend of mine today. His name's Marcus Waring, and he's a chef and an incredible businessman actually. And he mentored me for a long time, and he was a huge support to me, and I'll always be grateful for that. And we sort of evolved from there.
Amazing. And then, we've, from a Citius Retreats point of view, been very appreciative of the help that you've given us and the knowledge that you've then built up from, the last 14 years, basically, of doing it. You've gone on the journey, which is what a lot of our experts talk about, whether that's down the healthcare route or down the wellness space. You kind of sit nicely in the middle, I think, really, which is kind of why we wanted to bring you on. In terms of that process, are you entrepreneurial in that sense, in the health space? What do you think were the other parts that then guided you through that journey? Because you've worked with some incredible brands, and we can talk about that.
I think jumping back, I think for anyone looking to start up on their own, and this also comes with a reflection, because you may not know it at the time, but one of the things that I've always stayed true to is my founding principles. And I think if you can really think about the purpose of your company and what you want to do, but also what you want that company to act as and how you want that company to serve you. And you need to keep those quite separate, because it can often get very blurry, particularly if you're the founder, CEO kind of thing. But it is like, what is your company's purpose and what is your purpose within that company? What does that company do for you? And for me, for Luxley, it was always that I just wanted to go and do brilliant work for brilliant people. And that may sound really basic, but it was having the choice of who I worked with was like paramount to my success, because it's not rocket science. If you work with people who you're totally inspired by, who are quality experts, they're not going to let their clients down. They're offering, really innovative, brilliant services or products, whatever it may be, then you are very motivated by that. And that allows your motivation and your passion to feed into the work you do and also into the team. So whenever we get approached for, by somebody, I'll put it out to the team, and we'll really think about it. And we'll think, number one, can we deliver for them? Number two, what do they want delivered? Is it achievable? And number three, are we going to enjoy this? Because, we're very committed to going on the journey with everyone we work with. And I think that is, in your industry, in the wellness and fitness industry, that client relationship is absolutely key. And if you don't have the right synergy, it's really hard to go the distance with somebody.
I think it's you talk, and you've obviously got experience across quite a lot of different aspects of PR, communication, like all the skill sets within there. Would you say you've specialized in kind of health and wellness, and was that intentional or something that has, because we're seeing obviously just in society a huge trend and growth in kind of health and wellness. Has that naturally meant that you've got more clients into that space?
It was a conscious decision. On a personal level, I've always been into sport. I was playing quite high level sports at school, and then I carried on with my fitness at university. I didn't actually pay for any of my university clubs because I went to the trials and I really didn't like the people at the trials. I was like, this isn't my crew. Like, I want to come to university and not hang out with those type of people. But I went to the gym. I had a gym membership at uni. People were like, what are you spending your money on the gym for? I mean, I don't know how many times I went, but I definitely had. And then I met my husband at uni and he was super fit. He went to the gym every day. So that was a good inspiration. But it really was a passion which was there. But when I launched, we were very luxury lifestyle. But then, we launched in 2013, and that was when the boom in the fitness market was really coming. Do you remember 2013 to 2018? That was it was just enormous. And I saw that there was this really weird thing happening where basically if you were cool or if you had loads of Instagram followers or if you looked like a model, you were successful. And, I was going to these gyms because that's where everybody wanted to go. And I was going to the gyms and getting injured, or I was going to the gyms and thinking, oh my God, these trainers can't even squat properly. And they're telling us how to squat and move our bodies. And it was after, and I won't name them because I don't think there's anything good for naming and shaming, but it's a really big brand. I went to a class and also I know how to move my body, right? And I came out with a rotator cuff injury, and that took 18 months to get better. And it was because they were using too high weights. There's too many people in the class and people weren't getting individualized attention. And fine, it is a challenge if you've got big groups, but I go to a gym now where there can be up to 30 people in a class. No, maybe not that many, 20, but every single person gets individualized attention because the training quality is exceptional. So that made me think, hang on a minute, the wellness and fitness industry is booming, and there are people who are doing it really well, but there's also people who are doing it really badly. And I want to help protect that wellness consumer who can be vulnerable. Wellness consumers, overall, on the whole, a lot of them are looking for self-improvement. And some of that comes with baggage. And if I could represent some of the people and brands who are doing it really well and help them shine, so that those people who were looking for the classes or the physios or the psychologists or the coaches, whatever it may be, they'd have more exposure so they could help them. It was basically that virtuous circle of, if I can make these guys shine, they can reach more people and more people can feel better about themselves or get over their injuries or, get fitter or whatever it may be. So it was really around then. And then it was just, and I loved it. There's a lot to be said about surrounding yourself with people who you can learn from, not only from a professional level, but being able to go to the best classes in London or, have time with these incredible mindset experts who people had to pay a lot of money to access, or the wearable tech, been aware of the tech before it went to market, or, these women's health brands, which are genuinely, I'm now in my early 40s and, women's health is really important, and been at the forefront of those innovations and, knowing about them and knowing the impact that they can have on populations. It's just an incredible industry to be part of.
Really resonates from the kind of impact perspective. And I think it's probably something that probably motivates where my career's gone and probably where George is from Citius retreats. Like, as a therapist or a practitioner, you can only have impact with the person you're having in that one room. But when you start to get into kind of that organizational or kind of podcast newsletters, podiums where you can share insights, it creates a different level of impact, which is really inspiring for the work that you do anyway. Yeah, kind of, as you say, it's a self-motivating cycle, really.
Yeah, totally. And also I think, going back to one of my founding principles of Luxley, it was very much, because I never managed to do it before, was to build an agency where personal and professional well-being took center stage. Like, there is no, if someone in the team says, oh, my yoga class doesn't finish till 9:30, I'm going to get in at 10. I'm like, fine, that's totally fine. Like, I have no, I think it is allowing myself and anyone who works with us the freedom to do things to make themselves feel better and be their best selves. And I think, I think there's with hybrid working and everything, a lot of people can do that. I was in the gym this morning, my class finished at 9 and the gym was heaving. Pre-COVID.
Exactly. Class time. One of my very good trainer friends calls it, where people maybe have done the work early, maybe knocked out a few emails and had maybe some calls and maybe people on different time zones so that they can go and make that class that's important to them, or go and do that session at that time because that fits with the rest of the family life and all that goes with it. I think, you mentioned again at the beginning there, you had a big summer with it being at the Olympics and your involvement around Amiga House, which was sensational. I did like the meme that you put up, which was, if you were in Paris and you didn't go to Amiga House, what were you doing? It was
Yeah. I mean, that was from like one of the biggest style influencers in Paris. So when it went up, I was like, we've done it. But I must add, I was a cog in a massive machine. Like, I'm lucky to have worked with that brand for a long time, but when you're in, it's like the Olympics, right? It doesn't happen like without like an army of people. And when you go into, George, you work with the Olympics, it's an incredible place to be, but you get sucked into this like Olympic vortex and nothing else exists, and you come out of it. For me, I was absolutely knackered. Like,
But that's the important piece, isn't it? It's exactly what you said. I spoke to you afterwards and you were saying, I went in with a bit of a plan around how to manage myself and manage the team. And then you get consumed because the work is so overwhelming, and it's a one-off piece. So you put that extra effort in, but so you could have broken up the day slightly, a bit of a learning for LA, maybe just promoting you.
Definitely. No matter how old or young you are, 16-hour days.
Yeah,
it's not straight.
Also, you then have the opportunity to come back over the summer, like regroup with your family, spend time with them, close down the agency into more of just a tick over phase, just so that everybody can regenerate and then go again. Because September's always that busy time. Whichever industry you're in, it's that everyone's got a new school book, new school shoes, and new pencil case. Wherever you are in industry, and you go again. I always think that September often is a bigger time of year than January is in many ways, because of the way that people work, and particularly the sort of global influences. So it's great to hear that you're engaging that and doing that, and again with your gym class piece there. Well, I think that resonates with a lot of people.
But we have to guilt-free prioritize ourselves, right? A lot of people, like my sister, she's one of my favorite people on the planet, and she's got 3 young boys, and she's like, I don't have time to go to the gym. I'm like, yes, you do. Like, find the time. She's also a GP, so it's challenging for her. But I totally understand it.
And the solicitor.
Pardon?
She's a solicitor and...
No, she's a GP. No.
So what? I'm actually doing that.
I do understand, but I also, my message to everybody is find the time, because you will reap the benefit and the people around you will reap the benefit. And, I say this, with experience. It took me ages. It was actually COVID, which gave me the clarity and the space to realize how important it was. And it started for me with, because I was a bit ad hoc with my fitness, but it started with committing to 10,000 steps a day. And everyone's like, oh, the 10,000 steps. For me, it wasn't about weight loss or anything. It was about getting 10,000 steps a day, gave me 10,000 steps when nobody was talking to me. I wasn't parenting. I wasn't trying to homeschool. I wasn't trying to run a business. I was out listening to my podcast or whatever I was doing, walking. And then from that, it just... when you achieve these little incremental things, I thought, well, if I can do that, I can do this. So I started building an hour of exercise at 7:00 in the morning, because we were at home, it was fine. And just building it all in. And then it became this little system for me, which I've carried on. And now when I don't exercise, it's my mental health check for me. Not only do I know it's good for me, but for me, it's my gift to myself to keep my mind in check.
It's the real light bulb moments though, isn't it? Like when I've been out on a run, you're like, that's how I need to tackle that task, kind of thing. Exactly. Like it is just space. It's so valuable.
And even if you can only do 15 minutes is better than nothing, So, and I think it is, but I think, the world we're living in with the growth of the fitness and wellness market and the messaging, which goes through, multi-brand now. Like we're really lucky. We work with a company called One Living, which is founded by Johnny Wilkinson. And he's an incredible person, his mind and his commitment to well-being. And, he's been on such a personal mental health journey. He's now relaunched the company so that I don't mean to be PR here. It's just his brand and how, they sell kombucha, but actually they are a brand with purpose now. And his whole brand is now focused on empowering people to feel at one, to help them, learn the lessons he's learned and the skills he's learned to manage mental well-being. And so I think it permeates through society in a way that just didn't exist before. like, and it's growing, and you know, you can be a kombucha brand, but be a mental wellbeing brand at the same time. And that is, you know, that is amazing. And that's the same. You can be a physiotherapist. Like, there's an amazing trainer at my gym, and she's training to be a psychotherapist at the same time, because you can understand that. Like you're dealing with people all day long. You know, I know from my PT, the poor guys, like, Katie, sometimes I feel like you're like, you know, your therapist. I'm like, we are a little bit like, you know.
No, but you are, and that's we say this a lot on this show and with our guests. Everyone's a coach. Okay, it's just how much you want to lean into that side of what you can offer, and skilling yourself in that area can just be partly down to patient journey in terms of numbers that you see, but also who you link in with and where you get your inspiration from. Like you say, you know, Johnny's kombucha brand is a kombucha brand, but actually it's a well-being movement that sells kombucha as part of what it does. And I think that's a really lovely switch that they've made, and they've got other products coming out over the autumn and into the future that are going to complement that piece. And so it'll be in 5 years' time that people say, you know, number one living, they'll go, oh yeah, the wellness, well-being, health, mental health brand that also sells kombucha. People will look at it very, very differently into the future, I think. And there's lots of brands that, as Nicola likes to say, leaning into wellness, but it's a really important piece, and that's how society and various strands can just really like look after each other a bit more than we maybe have done in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
So we've seen you talking about, you know, that sort of 2013, 2018, where the market was, where it's moving to. What do you think the future might look a bit more like in the wellness space, you know, from your seeing it, from the brands that you're working with and the direction that they're going?
And God, if I've been involved in so many exciting conversations in the last like 2 or 3 months, that there is some amazing tech coming out. I'm under NDA, I can't talk about it, but if the trials go well and if the funding comes through, my goodness, like it's going to blow our minds. And also it's going to change the health and well-being of people around the world. And that is, you know, the primary function. But I think, you know, tech is obviously really important, and it is getting better every year. And I'm really excited to see this area of the market evolve. But I think what's really impressive within the tech industry as well, wellness tech, is that it goes beyond physical activity tracking. It's not just about your smartwatches. It's about how they are now drilling down on stress, on, you know, menstrual cycles, on blood sugar, on, you know, all those things which, you know, for us to perform and be at our best, it really is holistic. You can't just siphon off fitness and nutrition. It has to, all of it, you know, you can have the best fitness and nutrition routine, but if you're not sleeping at night, you know, that your fitness and nutrition doesn't really matter as much, kind of thing. But I think, you know, and also they're lending themselves to like meditation and mental health support. And I think, you know, that personalized wellness plan, which can come out of AI, it's, you know, it's huge, and tech is playing a massive role in how we approach our health today. So I think that is one. And I know you two will agree with this when I say this, but I do think, you know, we're going back to like holistic, hyper-personalized, in some respects, personalized fitness. You know, people are looking for more. You know, they want more than just, you know, a fitness plan. They're looking for like really comprehensive solutions which encompass all those things that I spoke about, like emotional health, mental health, fitness, nutritional health, spiritual growth. You know, spiritual growth. Some people are not that into it. I'm massively into it, but you know, I think all of these things, that holistic well-being piece it's you know, it's really important. And I think with the resurgence of it coming full circle away from, you know, who's got the biggest Instagram followers and back to the experts, like, you know, it is expert driven now. And it always has been for us, that we've only ever worked with the experts, and we're like, you know, shun the trends, the fads and everything. But, you know, seeing it go full circle is just, it's so important, because, you know, and I say this to brands we work with, like, you can't build a successful like company with longevity on an Instagram account. It has to go beyond it. Like, it has to go beyond social media. So, you know, it's an exciting place to be. And there's quite a few other things like emotional health, like we've spoken about, you know, and I think inclusivity in the wellness space, I think that's a really important area which we're seeing more of. And, I know you'll love it when I say this, George, social sports, like,
like a paddle invitational, maybe.
Paddle.
Yeah.
Paddle invitational, end of September. Paddle, pickleball, more people playing tennis and golf, I live in Wimbledon, and the LTA have put so much money into regenerating local courts. Like, we've got some courts in the park opposite our house, and they've redone them, and they are full. Like, they are absolutely full. And that brings a community around the tennis courts, and those tennis courts have been really sad. I've lived on my street for 13 years now. And now there's just like a new lease of life in our park. And it's really lovely. And I think that feeds back into the group workouts. Like, I'm, personally, I'm really motivated by group workouts. Not a lot of people are, but I am. And I think, in the pandemic, we shifted to like digital workouts. And again, I think there's still a massive place for those digital platforms. And I think some people are doing really well. But having been like that, human connection and community, it's really powerful.
Yeah, and it's that making time in the week to do it, isn't it? And you miss it when you haven't done it, regardless of what the weather's done, what's going on with your home and family life, what's going on in work. It's actually, you need to make that time, set that alarm, and make sure you get there. Or if you're doing it after work, and going back to the point you were making before about hyper personalization, you very kindly introduced us to Body Space. And we've been on some panel discussions with some really big hitters in the industry. And it's really interesting when exactly as you say, people are reproducing the same message, said maybe slightly differently, said slightly in their own way, but
yes,
experts are all saying the same thing about coming together and getting people to engage and working out what that engagement looks like so that they then can go on a wellness journey, which can last the rest of their lives. And when you see grassroots sports, which is really what we're talking about from an LTA point of view, getting that into the mindset of young people that doing these things collectively is not just about running around and working on your cardiovascular fitness, the social of what physical activity can give you away from your phone, particularly, that face-to-face interaction and everything that goes with it is super important around overall well-being.
Yeah. And I think, that's one of the genius things you're doing with Citius, George, is that, there is a massive market for wellness retreats and fitness retreats, but you're bringing hyper-personalized, doctor-led, that again, it's like people are wanting more, they're looking for more. And actually, how can you integrate that? And I'm lucky, I've been on lots of retreats, and the best ones are always the ones where there is a program, but you have your own mini program within the program. I once spent a lot of money on a retreat, and I was just literally like a number on the retreat. I literally just wanted to leave. I was just like, I can go to my gym and do this. And that person over there is really annoying me. But I think it is. I think it's super important. And also, if you want results, right?
Yeah, exactly. You've got to be data driven. We've talked about that across this series, and not just wearable text, but other measurables that you can have. So then you need some objectivity, because not everything works for everybody, and you've got to try something that maybe push you out of your comfort zone. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work. But then so that you can zero in for you as a person at your stage in life, where you are, with everything else that's going on, what is going to work for you.
Yeah. And I think it's also the interpretation of that data. And I think this is where the tech industry has got quite a lot to do, because it's all good and well issuing the tech and, making it consumer friendly and accessible to all. But if people aren't interpreting their data in the right way, it can actually be really dangerous.
And that's not even on a person level, though. It's practitioner level as well, isn't it? Like, that's, I think, the big thing around the tech. It's amazing. And I've seen some amazing stuff that's coming out and what people have got planned on roadmaps. But it's got to be seamless integration to life, because you've got this complete conflict, haven't you, of evolving tech and people, which potentially could make you more isolated in life. And this absolute demand for community and connection. And it's the tech that will bring that together, but also it becomes seamless in life, that I think is really going to win overall in this. It's not just, and I'm seeing, I'm a Whoop user and I love it. Well, actually, no, I like it, actually. I wouldn't say actually I love it. I do really like it. But what is really interesting is those that were early adopters of Whoop are actually now stopping, because they're like, I've got all the data I want from it. It's told me what I respond well to, what stress looks like for me, what recovery looks like, how I personally respond, but it's not adding any more value for me. So thank you. And now I'll go and find some other way of finding out that data or something. So tech also requires that constant innovation, that it creates value for its users. And I think more and more that's got to be the integration of different components of tech into lifestyle. It's not going to be one product or one brand going forward.
Yeah, and it's also okay for consumers to do that. It's okay for you to have your Whoop for 2 years. And, I've just done the same with my Aura ring. And, I feel I keep going to fiddle for it because it's not there because I wore it for 2 years, but it wasn't telling me anything I didn't know. And they are very good. They always introduce new products within the Aura ring, but I work with Jessica Ennis and Janice, and so I'm abreast of cycle mapping, which is the new thing for Aura, and there's loads of other stuff. But Aura did what I said. Excuse me. Aura did exactly what I wanted it to do. It helped me with my sleep, and I will forever be grateful for them because it totally reframed my sleep. Because I thought, because I was very wakeful, I've struggled with sleep since my son was born, and that was 11 years ago, and what it showed me is that even though I'm really wakeful at night, I'm actually still getting really good quality sleep. So when I wake at night now, I don't panic, and I then don't stay awake, and I don't have to do my breathing exercises. And do you know what I mean? My wakefulness is that, oh, it's okay. Don't worry, you're going to go back to sleep and you're still going to get a good night's sleep. And for me, that has changed my life.
Yeah. And I would say Whoop reset my relationship with alcohol, because it was like that showed me how poor my sleep was with alcohol.
Yeah, same.
So
yeah.
George doesn't like it that I won't stay out and drink, but I've definitely improved my lifestyle.
Place and a time for everything, isn't there?
Very good.
I think it's really worthwhile, and we try to pull this into every conversation about accessibility of wellness, just because it is such a massive area. And I think it's really interesting that you've picked on like the regeneration of community facilities like local tennis courts and things like that. And so we've always tried to pick up what are the simple tips. But I also want to ask a question around the quite high-end, expensive health recovery longevity centres that are popping up on kind of high street, and the accessibility for those going forward. Do you have any thoughts around those centres?
Well, yeah, I do actually, and I'm quite opinionated on it because I started working with longevity specialists in like 2009 when longevity was longevity, and I think it's grown loads, and I've been fascinated watching it because I've also worked with and continue to have relationships with the people who we were PRing back in the 2009, 10, 11. And firstly, the growth in this area is a reflection of demand, right? There's more people as fitness and wellness grows, people become more intrinsically vested and linked to their personal fitness and wellness, or they might also see their parents getting older and injury or illness happening and looking at how they can help them survive longer. And basically, ultimately, is that people are looking for solutions to live longer, happier, better quality lives, right? And I think having these venues on the high street, away from Harley Street, Harley Street is amazing, it'll always be the hub, but actually having them as more accessible destinations is really great because it allows people to integrate them into daily life. They can, on their lunch break, they can pop out and they can go for a treatment or a checkout, or they can go for a recovery session. Rather, it doesn't always have to be a gym session. It can be a recovery session. And it allows people to prioritize their health and actually take action against it in ways which weren't available before because these services weren't there. But although this is where I'm quite opinionated on it. And although it's really great seeing longevity get the mainstream attention it deserves, I also think there's a risk that it's going to lose its true meaning because it's becoming a bit diluted, and I don't want it to become a buzzword because longevity is an incredible, incredible thing, right? But now everyone's claiming to be a longevity specialist. So what does longevity mean? There's a lot of brands jumping on the trend, and I think it's super important that, anyone operating in this space or anyone who is claiming to be a longevity specialist, longevity is about long-term sustainable health practice. It's not quick fixes. And I think it is really like keeping that front and center because if, it's also science backed, it's not one of those things that, we can overshadow with a trend. And I think that we just got to be really careful on it. And also there are some people in the market who are doing it exceptionally well, but they also are costing 40 grand a year to do it. So how do you make those longevity services accessible on a mainstream level, And do we call it longevity?
Well, that would be my point around what those people are doing in those centres. You talk about those high-end centres, predominantly in central London. I would say that they are longevity centres because they're doing such.
They are.
Yeah, they're doing one-on-one sessions with experts in clinics. They're doing blood work. They're doing vast amounts of investigation. They're bringing it together with an overview, with a longer-term plan.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of what we were sort of started with there in that conversation, sort of the more locally available centres, if you like, are more wellness recovery centres where they're offering an ice bath or a sauna or a hyperbaric chamber or recovery legs or cryotherapy or infrared. The list goes on. So yes, I think there's certainly a kind of, there would seem to be anyway a sort of fight for the wording. And then what the meaning is, and people getting wrapped up in the latest buzzword, which is kind of how longevity's almost become over the last probably 6 months.
Yeah.
Probably needs to be, as with many of these things, you get that initial reaction and then the market settles down afterwards. Because
I also believe, like you said, George, like those clinics who a lot of them have been established for a while now, they can ride because they're not a trend, right? It's a way of life, and they're providing services for a long time. And I think it is, they will bounce off the buzzword thing. But also because their clients are spending a huge amount of money and the clients don't really care what it's called. They actually care about the service which has been offered.
Well, they appreciate the value of what they're getting by engaging in those things, and they're prepared to make a long-term plan to be members for the long term. It's a membership club in that sense where they're getting certain change. You talk about some of the tech developments that are coming, or some of the medical developments that are coming in the next 6 to 12 months in that longevity space will widen the gap, I feel, between what wellness is and what wellness centres are and what spa type offerings are and what longevity, which is medically governed and supervised with appropriately trained practitioners, etc., what that looks like. So I think in some ways some of the developments are about to come in the next 6 to 12 months. Again, I've got a few NDAs signed as well. Everyone likes to jump in, don't they? But you can see what's coming down the track, and I think that will then help to start separating some of that out, because I know some of these longer term longevity solutions and propositions are actually not wanting to get involved in the more wellness spa space because they want to keep it in the medical domain. Led service, which I think will help drive that. Which again goes back to that piece around what does a high level of expert look like? Where's your credibility? What are your qualifications? Who are you audited by? Who are you looked after by from a governing body point of view? And the value of going to see a high level of expert who's got appropriately trained qualifications and is appropriately up to speed on what is going on in the market is a big difference between somebody who's got a high profile on social media.
No, it's just to say that's why someone like Katie is so important in the industry, because it is a really hard area for a consumer to navigate, to know what is evidence-based, what is good, and what is a trend or a myth, actually, sometimes as well, or just
we do a lot of myth busting.
A good sales marketing technique.
No, but I think that's really important, isn't it? Because you have worked with some incredible high-level brands, and we've mentioned Body Spades, and there are many others in that similar hyper-personalization space who've been doing this for a long period of time. They've therefore gained great credibility, but do a lot of people know that? And that's where PR and brand agency like yourself connects people appropriately to what the right information is.
Yeah, and I think it's a real duty of care as an industry for anyone who works in our industry to help spread that message and spread it correctly. And one of the things which unites our clients at Luxley is that they're all experts in their field. So even if they don't have 100,000 Instagram followers, the journalists we work with know that we are only bringing them like the top caliber of experts, and they love working with them. And it is we as an agency are very purpose driven to help all of our clients help improve the lives of others. And, by doing that, that ripple effect is huge. And it allows us to, like you were saying, George, to educate people on a level. And a lot of people think PR is just like column inches, but it goes so beyond that. And I think, that's another thing I'm trying to get, as an industry, it's changing because PR has changed so much. It's now very, digital first, and there's a lot of commercially led PR, which didn't used to exist. And, so I could go on and on, but I think the message here is that, no matter if you're in this industry, like, it's really, really important that you upskill and you educate your consumer and you point them in the right direction. And like, we were talking about earlier, with trends and things, fine, there is a trend towards AI and tech, but do your research around that tech. There's a trend towards community fitness, but do your research around the companies behind those, because you want to make sure that when you're in those centers, you're getting the expertise you need so you don't come out with an injury or whatever it may be. And it is, we can educate and help feed into that funnel, but ultimately the person, the consumer at the end needs to take responsibility as well.
Yeah. And we've seen it in reformer Pilates, haven't we? Like massive boom, unfortunate injuries and high level kind of legal cases that have gone associated with like equipment and different kind of aspects. And so, you have to kind of educate yourself, and some things will just feel good, and that is part of well-being and wellness to some degree. But if you actually, it's worth definitely investing time in researching further, understanding who are experts in different spaces.
And also, if you're a practitioner, like, research every single thing you need to research. I always think of, create your sort of what if doc. What if this happened? What if that? Because I started in crisis management. I always have the worst case scenario playing out in my head. And that is it's not a negative approach, but it's an informed approach. It's like, you've got to look at all the things that should go wrong and be ready for that, because then you protect yourself against that, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
Well, there we go. I think it's been a brilliant episode. I think, Katie, thank you so much for your help, guidance, supervision, thought, and general energy. Nicola, obviously always fun chatting. We talked here mainly about balance, about looking after yourself, about looking after the people around you, and making time for yourself. It's probably the keys there. You can lean into tech, where you've got to think about what it's giving you. You can lean into various types of physical activity or just fresh air breaks, but basically doing something that prioritizes yourself and your well-being helps not just yourself, but those around you. Katie, it's been brilliant. Thank you so much. And we hope you all enjoy the episode and tune in for the next one.
Thank you so much.
That's the end of this week's episode. Thanks again to our kind sponsors, IBSA. Osteoarthritis is the leading cause of pain and disability in the UK. As our bodies age, there is a loss of naturally occurring hyaluronic acid within our joints, which can lead to reduced shock absorption and lubrication. This can contribute to the development of osteoarthritis, resulting in joint pain, stiffness, and difficulty carrying out daily activities, such as going to work and exercising. Synovial HL is a joint injection with the highest concentration of hyaluronic acid available in the UK, effectively restoring hyaluronic acid in the joint. It is scientifically proven to reduce pain and increase joint function, preserving your joint into the future. Synovial HL is injected in a simple procedure which offers an alternative to medication and surgery. If you'd like to find out more, please visit synovial.co.uk for full product information and a list of clinics offering Synovial HL injections. Synovial. Move freely, live fully. Disclaimer. The procedure must be carried out by an appropriately trained healthcare professional.